Morning, and we're going to have a little look at some pastel work today, and do some nice bunnies, some new life, because there's lots about. So we all feel a different way about rabbits, don't we? So they're very cute, but they can be a devil with the garden. So so it's mixed feelings sometimes, but they are really lovely, really lovely to have a go at doing in pastel because of all the fur and everything. It's really lovely. So I'm going to use a mixture of pencils and pastels together, and I hope you enjoy. So I'll just switch over the camera. Here we go. Okay, brilliant. So I want to do this little one here. Now, obviously, you can choose whichever rabbit you want to do, and there are so many different varieties and shades that you can see within the one that you're doing. I'm just going to pull this curtain on a bit so you can, that's better, so you can see the tones in the rabbit. So I'm going to go. So this one has got a lot less heavy contrast than some of perhaps the other ones where you've got like a real light fur mixed with kind of quite dark fur. But again, it's just really selecting the color palette that's going to work for you. I've tested some colours on here, so I've gone for two lighter ones, and then two warm ones because there's quite a lot of warm fur, and then I've gone for a darker one as well. And I'll use these darker pencils for things like the eyes and smaller details that are more precise. But you can be really, you can just use the edge of your pastel. That's absolutely fine. So as usual, just making sure that it's in the right place is quite important, so that you don't have half a bunny or missed off at the end. So I'm going to just check. I mean, obviously this one's quite obvious, it's quite central, so we know that even if we scale it up a little bit, it's still going to fit within, it's still going to fit on the paper. So I'm just going to pop it in. So here we go. So you could use, I'd suggest maybe use a light pastel just to pop in some of the details, and then you're not having to commit to those really dark lines. But I tend to put my eyes in and try and get those in the right place. But again, you can pop them in with a lighter line to start with, because then you can blend that into the background with the different tones of the rabbit. So here we go. So I'm just going to, I'll use my light coloured one. I'm just going to have a little look. And again, if you're not sure, just use your pencil to work out. I'm going to pretty much transfer this over, maybe enlarge it slightly. So what I want to do is work out where my ears are going and what the width apart is. So I'm going to just make it slightly bigger. So all I'm going to do is width apart of the ears. Obviously it's more or less central is the head. So let's have a little look, measure down to the whereabouts the head will start. Now, as I said, I'm making it slightly bigger, so I'm going to make that mark slightly, take it on top of the head slightly down. So then you can have a little look at the length of the face as well if you want to. How big is that going to go? Are you going to go right down to the bottom lip, or are you even just going to go to the nose first? I'm going to go to the nose here, and then you can work down from the nose if you want, and work out how big about the lip mark is there, down to the cheeks and down to the bottom of the, and then obviously my body is going to come all the way down to the bottom here, because I've made this much bigger, this face bigger than the actual one here, a little bit bigger, not massively bigger. So there we go. So I've got a few little marks there already. What I can do then is maybe just start to map in my ears a little bit. We know the width of the body is going to fit in, so we're not in a panic for that one, because we've got it quite central, this one. Now, if you're doing a different shape bunny, you might want to actually get that one in. So I'm just going to follow around the shape of the ears. You can even copy the shape of the head round if you want to. There we go. So general outline, again, I can see, we can change this slightly as we go. So I'm going to follow this one. It has a slight curve, doesn't it? A bit more of a curve out than this one. And then let's have a look at the width. The width comes a bit down here for this ear. It comes slightly further down, in a little bit, and then back out again. There we go. We swoop this one round. We get this in it, you know, the outer edge of this one here. Okay, so we've got the nose in place as well here. So and again, as I said, we will alter some of these because we can alter the shape of the head and things like that as we go in a bit. But we might want to get where the eyes are in now. We've got the nose in here. Generally got the nose, and you can even do that little point if you want to, if that helps, and kind of get a bit of the shape of this this sort of bit of the pouch here. You can even you know, measure across to see what the widest area of the face is. And again, I'm going to make mine slightly wider, just because I'm scaling it up a little bit. So again, it gives you a general idea. And then again, we can follow the shape of this face out. Underneath where the mouth is there, which just gets a bit like, we can do that nice and softly as we go. And then we've got just the eyes. So I always say let's get those eyes in, because they're the bits that, you know, people find a little bit tricky. So what I would do there is have a little look, because we'll find that a lot of the eyes are quite far spread out, and so it's getting them far enough apart, really. And if you look, you know, it's more or less, if you work straight down from the top of the ear, it's more or less, the edge of the eye is more or less there. So we can see, and also what you get is this V with the eyes across to the nose as well. You know, it's like a perfect, almost like a perfect equal angle here. So let's have a little look. So I'm just going to get I am going to get my darker pencil just to pop this in. But if you're not sure and you want to kind of just pop it in lightly with a lighter colour, that's absolutely fine. Let's see. So I'm going to go straight down to the top of the ears. This is fine if you've got your ears in the right place. And if not, you can just use, you know, you can just use angle out how the face comes out like this a little bit, look, if you want to. Make sure it's more accurate. And pop the side of the eye in the right place. That's another way. So there's lots of different ways of doing it. And it will look a little bit evil until you get all those details on. So don't worry if you think, oh my goodness, this is just looks really odd. It will do for a bit, because the eyes, you know, are supposed to be part of the composition. And then, you know, I can go across with a side look. You can almost go across like that, can't you? And start to get the other eye in, which is a little bit further inwards and slightly lower, because we've got the head is slightly turned. A lot of this depends very much on the angle. The angle that the rabbit is looking at, really. Okay. Yeah, so that's just slightly down. Let's head turned a little bit. Again, you can measure up the side look. You know, we can see this side of this ear misses the eye by a way, which is what I'm seeing on there as well. The inside of the ear, just yeah, I'm quite happy with that, really. So I'm going to commit now and pop those eyes in, because then we can work all around the rabbit really easily. So I'm going to get this in anyway, because it's dark. But you can use the edge of the pastel. You don't have to use this. And we'll soften that line as well. once we put the fur in around it. So don't worry about it being really, you know, a harsh line. Okay. So there we go. So yes, we'll have the evil-eyed rabbit for a little while. It's fine. And I might, you know, I'm not going to use black actually, because I think the eyes being one of the things I'm going to put in black. So then I'm just going to carry on with what I was doing and get some of this face shape. So it comes, you know, what you tend to find on the rabbit is these almost like circular areas. Can you see where you get these patches of dark or light fur? And it's really pretty much where the fur sticks out, you get that highlight of it, and where it goes in a bit, you might get like a darker ring or a warmer ring. So it's quite nice. You know, you can kind of copy some of those shapes. And I'd say that this face does more or less come down here, doesn't it, in a lighter colour, but we'll just pop it in. And then the other side, it falls away a little bit with a darker colour, so I'm not going to make it a really obvious edge. I'm just going to kind of put the whereabouts it comes, and then start to pop in some of these wider bits of fur that catch the light, that we can pop in, you know, once we start actually doing the pastel painting. And there's another little one there that comes out a bit light. And then again, so I'm going to get his back here, so this almost joins up to here. Get the shape of his body outline. Can't see much of him actually, can we there? Or her. And then down here. And then I can just see some kind of a foot, which is a bit blurred just here. Okay, well, I'm quite happy now. I've just got enough down now to start working on the inside of this rabbit, and that's really the key, I think, to some of it, because what can happen is if we really commit to one area, then we can, you know, we can't really adapt it, whereas if we keep it a little bit loose but we have a general idea, then we can adapt and move each area as we go. So I've got my eyes in. Pretty much darker palette, so you can go really small with your pencils, or you can keep it much looser with some bigger strokes. It's really entirely you. There's no worries about scaling these rabbits right up to A3 and just using, you know, bigger marks on there, or even really small. It just will take a lot longer. So expect that the bigger this piece is, and if you are working quite you know, neatly, and or not neatly, you know, with fine detail, then it is going to take quite a long time. It may take you a few hours actually. So there we go. So obviously the tones are important on any of the rabbit, to make sure that we have a contrast between these warms and lights and darks areas. That is important. So I'm just going to pop in, I'm going to use a brown for this, but you can use any colour. Some people might use a pinky. It has got a little bit of a pink tinge in it, hasn't it? Just get these darker areas. So whichever area you're working on, you can use that formula really. Just kind of, some people like to work in all of the dark tones and then all of the medium tones all the way across, and then all of the lighter ones, and build it up like that. And other people like to work on one section and build up the layers, but actually just, you know, enjoy doing that. So it's really down to you where you choose to do it. We don't want to be going against what is natural to you, what feels natural is really important. So way of, you know, your way of telling you what it is that, you know, feels right to you and is enjoyable. Right, so I am just going to, I might use some of my pencils for this, or I might use the side. So I'm just going to start to get in some of these, which are probably the darkest areas actually on this rabbit here. So I'm just really, all it is just paying attention, really paying attention to the colours that I can see in here, my darker areas. Now you can, when you're putting some of these areas on, you can actually just go straight in with some of the movement of the fur if you want to, or you can actually, you know, blend in some of these areas and get the movement in over the top with a lighter colour. It's entirely up to you. Just see what feels right. I'm using a neutral background, so you can see I might use some of those colours to come through the paper actually in some of the areas. Particularly around this area here, but you know, if you've say got a white piece, you might want to reserve some of the areas, the lighter areas around it, like this. So obviously I'm building those layers up on the neutral colour. Okay. So I've got some of these dark tones. I'm going to pop some of these warmer ones through. Just decide, just do a little test just to decide which one. Yeah, I think that's quite warm on these sides of this ear here. So I'm just going to go through. I'm not putting in big patches. I'm actually just creating this on because I've got this background colour through. But you might want to actually blend in some of these colours if you've got a, you know, if you've got a lot of the white showing through and you don't want it. I might just blend it just a tiny bit just to fix it into place. And then let's see. Yeah, there's some warmth on there. It's also slightly lighter. And pop that in as well. And it's really up to you, you know, to kind of pop in what you can actually see. I'm going to work in some of these slightly lighter tones now over the top. And again, you know, you can really use it to affect your pastel here. What I would say is what you can do is to make, if when you're going over these lighter ones, you can just make quite a, and you're not blending, because obviously we need to be very, if we're doing this over the top, it's just nice and light to get these little marks in the fur, but put enough pressure on so that it fixes in some of the pastel as we go, you know, kind of definite marks really. There we are. So then we've got this, you know, part of the rabbit here, so I'm just going to pop in this area of slight warmth near the edges. I will kind of carefully blend in some of that. This is a slightly darker anyway on the inside of this one, so I'm going to, not much light in that one, so I'm going to blend in that. Now obviously the smaller you go with your paper, the harder it is to blend it, get into those gaps with your finger. This is quite a small one. Right, let's have a look. So I am going to now work in some of these light colours. Now this isn't a white one actually, this is a lighter buff colour. So I'm just going to come in now and get some of these. I'm going to commit to it, so I'm going to make it quite, you know, I'm softening down these edges, just trying to replicate the fur coming off the that we can see. There we go. Okay, so what you can do if you want to is you can just kind of go back in. If there's any areas you think actually I've lightened that slightly too much, I'd like a bit more definition, just go in there. You'd be careful not to kind of rub it all together, because that's when you get this muddy mess. But there's always room for manoeuvre. More, there we go. But also remember not to take everything in isolation, because everything is part of a bigger picture, isn't it? So we don't need to like get too obsessed over one area until we've done a little bit more down the rabbit. Okay, well I'm finished on the ears for now. I'm just going to come in and see how everything else works together. That's what I'd like to do. So what I'm going to do on the rabbit here is I'm going to take these patches of skin. So I'm going to take this. Well, yeah, make sure your fingers are clean as well. You get a rag, make sure they're clean in between, because when you go between a dark one, you don't want to smudge it into there. So which one shall I use? That one or that one? Right, I'm going to use this one actually. I think, or is it this one? That's another light one. Okay, I'm going to use a bit this one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and recreate this bit underneath, which is slightly warmer, a warmer colour. So I'll pop enough on in a general patch, really. You kind of come in a shape, don't you, around here? So it doesn't have to be totally accurate, it's just giving you a general idea of where to start as well. So you can get some of these colourways into place. I'll work over some lighter colours and things. And then there's one down the side here. I'm going to use a slightly cooler one down there. This is quite warm, just around the eye here. Just in here. So these are my mid-warmish tones that I'm putting on next. There we go. There we are. Okay, so I've got some of these colourways in. And this really is just helping us, you know, get some tones in there, some nice tones. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work over with my lighter colour. I'm not going to use my buff, I'm going to use this slightly warmer one to start with, because it's not the lightest fur in here. And I'm just going to follow, you know, just follow and get some of these marks in of the fur. Okay. Let's have a look. I'm going to go a bit lighter with this buff colour around these highlights now. So I've got like some of the things I'm happy with, but I'm going to go for these much lighter areas around here, above the eyes, look, top of the head, and you'll see them as you look. And all of these different, I just use a slightly warmer light up here for a moment. Make sure it's natural so that there's a bit of, you know, shape coming down. Okay, so building up these areas again. One under the eyes, quite light there, isn't it? So that's one of the lightest areas actually, so I may even lighter in a little while. All of this. Now then, what I am going to do is I'm just going to pop this highlight in this eye. So this is where you can take, you know, if it's very light reflection, if it's not a very bright reflection, this one is here, but quite bright. But if you've got like a duller reflection, just use a slightly duller colour. It doesn't have to be bright, you know, a big highlight. And I would really press down and make a solid shape with it. That will help. There we go. It's feeling less kind of starry-eyed now, isn't it? So I am just going to, before I go underneath here, just go around the eyes, because the eyes are a slightly different colour, aren't they? Now there is kind of a purplish area in. So again, you can just use what colours you think. It'll just define the eye a little bit. Put in some of this, because this, you know, it's not totally black, is it, this here? We have this fur coming in, so I'm just going to pop that in there. And then you can always make it a little bit, you know, get your highlights and things in there around it, and then get some of that fur around it under the eye so it's a bit softer. There we go. So I might, you know, do the same, you know, get some of this definition in around the eye with the colour of the fur and everything. So I'm going to go for more of a peachy colour here. And again, you can block these and blend them in first if you want to. Or you can have them, you know, with some of the texture in there. Right. So I'm going to finish with the face, get the face done. So just going to work a little bit into some of these areas here. Just make sure. And then any bits that have got more of a highlight, I'll pop those on top as a final colour. So that we do have a difference between what's going on. They're very sweet though, aren't they? To look at. So I'm going to now focus on doing the nose and working outwards around there. So I'm going to get this, probably again, it's quite bright on here. This nose there, we get this lovely triangular, but you also get sometimes a touch of, there's a sense of kind of pinkish colours in there as well. So I'm going to pop that in as well. I'm going to make that kind of more of a definite shape. And I'm going to work in around this area as well. So let's make sure we get this shape out here. I might bring a few little pinks. There will be my midtones. Let's see. I'm quite comfortable doing this with pastel when it's not such a tiny picture. Okay. Just picking up some of the like little characteristics of the animal that you're doing, really. It's a lot of it. So then we've got this this area here. So I'm going to go for see if I can find you know, it's got a little bit of a tinge of a cool brown on it, hasn't it, really? So I've got to find my cool brown. Let's look at it, that one. That one. Up here. That one. No, they're a bit too, a bit more warmth in it than that. So I think I'll go for a combination here of the cool brown, and I'll just work into that area. So let's see. Around the nose, we've got that kind of a shape there, haven't we? I'd say that's slightly warmer actually. I might have to layer 2 pastels up, so sometimes that gives you the colour that you want as well when you layer it up. Let's see, if I layer that one on top, that one might be better, might it? Okay. Right, so I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to give myself a bit of a there we go. And then let's just pop in some of the shape. Right, there, great. Okay, happy with that now. So I'm actually going to use this pencil because it's a better tone. But you can use, we'll just pop a little bit of warmth in here. It's almost got two tones within the area. That's one slightly warmer, one slightly cooler. So just pop that in. I'm just being careful with how I place it. And then I can, there you go. Just getting the shapes, a lot of it is just getting the shapes around it as well. So let's see. A little bit of this warmth on this nose as well. So there's a little bit here. And then you can start to fill in some of the other details within there once you've got your, you know, once you've got the colour that you're happy with. I'm just going to bring that one out a little bit, the shape of it, because we've still got the fur around it to do. So again, like I was saying before, just careful we don't get, you know, don't get too invested in one particular area, because there's the other bits to do as well. So yeah, I am just going to get this bit of shape in here. Just make sure I've not gone over that bit. Yeah. This comes out a bit further actually. And I might just darken that off slightly, I think. And you might have some, you know, little tiny shadows that you haven't got in to start with, and you can just pop those in carefully over the top of the pencil without, you know, smudging it in. So it's just making sure it's hard enough. Okay. Just putting some darker here. Right. So I'm going to now start to weave in some of these lighter patches, look here, around there. And then we've got some dark kind of like little circular motion places where these whiskers come, but I'm not going to put my whiskers in until I've got the fur underneath it, because they actually cross over. So what I am going to do is choose my highlighted area around this nose and try and recreate some of this fur and the shape that I can see around that it creates. Here we are. Okay, put those in, and then you might want to just soften as well around, you know, some of the area that you've done there. This is quite highlighted, so I'm going to go for my buff here because it is really quite light. And I'm just going to now pop in some of these other highlighted areas, join them up a little bit. Where I've got the edge of the rabbit's face, and then those highlights over top. And again, making sure that there is enough of them on there. Okay, I'm just making sure if they're not quite highlighted enough, make sure you get the colour that you want on there. Again, it's just been selective, isn't it, with the colours that we've got. And then again, I've got this lovely fur. You can try and recreate that shape of lovely, you know, you've got the little chin under there. It's very cute, isn't he? So there we are. So I'm more than happy with the face the way it is now. So I'm now going to work in some of these patches of fur underneath. Now I'm going to make sure I've got the shadow underneath, because obviously that's the contrast. So I'm going to go for my cool brown, because it wants to see if it's going away. Cool recedes. If I have a really warm brown under there, it might pop forward. So cool one is a really good bet. And then we can see the shadow of the fur, and that's naturally, you get the shadow on the fur when you've got like the overlap of the head sticking out. It will just cast the shadow over the top. And then obviously we've got some bits of fur coming around here, so it's getting those in. We just and then obviously we've got these, again we've got swaves, haven't we, of really light colour fur. So I'm going to try and recreate that. Because it's all quite light, I'm actually just creating that. I'm using the background to show through. But you'd do that in the reverse. If you've got a light white background, you can just work in just a very few darker ones in between to show the fur, if you like. And then you can see again, we've got some bit more shading coming down here. So that's what we do, we're just altering the rings. So I'm just going to crack on with that now, following those patterns, and I'll stop talking for a moment. Okay, well, I think I'm pretty much where I want to be with this rabbit. Let's soften that down slightly. Yeah, it's just how how you choose to put the brush marks in. There is a little kind of a hint of a foot, so I could show, probably for that, might pop the dark, oops, wrong colour. Just get some of this kind of dark colour in just to show where it is. But obviously we can't really see what it actually is. We just see just some kind of warm and dark shades. So I would just pop that in and blur it out, really, because that's all we can see. So, at the end of the day, we're trying to reflect what we can see, and if that's what we see, then there we are. That's how I would show it, just like that, just kind of blurred out a little bit. There we are. So they do turn out slightly different. This is the one that I did last night on Zoom, and you can see again, I've even used slightly different marks and direction. But yeah, it's really enjoyable, and you can apply what we've done pretty much to any other animal with similar fur, and it's really nice to do. It's very, very enjoyable. You can get quite into that. Right, I will just turn around my camera and I'm going to sign off from there, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Right, thank you. Bye.